It was a cold, quiet morning. The sky was cloudy, and the air felt heavy with sadness. Outside the family's old house, black cars lined the street. People dressed in dark clothes walked slowly toward the front door. Inside, the living room was full of family members and close friends, all gathered for one reason: to say goodbye to the man who brought them all together, the head of the family, Haj Ibrahim. Haj Ibrahim had been a strong, respected man. He built the family's wealth and held everyone together, even when times were hard. Now that he was gone, his family felt lost, as if something important had been taken away from them forever. His sons sat quietly in the front row, their heads lowered. The oldest son, Tariq, tried to stay strong, but his eyes were red from crying. Next to him sat his younger brother, Nabil, who looked nervous, always glancing around the room. Behind them were their sisters, Layla and Mona, holding hands. They whispered prayers and wiped their tears. The grandchildren sat in silence, confused and unsure how to act. The room was filled with the sound of quiet, weeping, and soft prayers. Everyone remembered the good times with Haj Ibrahim, his warm smile, his wise advice, the way he used to laugh when the children played around him. Some people shared stories about him, while others just sat and cried. Suddenly, a whisper moved through the room. One of the cousins leaned in and quietly said, "Did you hear about the lost will?" Another replied, "Yes. They say there's another document. Not the one we saw last year." The words were spoken softly, but they carried weight. A few people looked around, their eyes wide. Was it true? Could there really be a second will? No one wanted to talk about it too loudly. It felt wrong to speak of money and inheritance during the funeral, but the idea of a hidden will stayed in everyone's mind like a shadow that refused to go away. Later that day, as the family stood together near the grave, the silence was filled with emotion. The sound of dirt hitting the coffin made some family members cry harder. Tariq looked at the sky, wondering what his father would say if he saw the family now. Layla squeezed Mona's hand, whispering, "Everything is going to change. I can feel it." And she was right. This funeral was not the end. It was just the beginning of something far more complex, a journey filled with secrets, arguments, and deep pain. A journey that would test the strength of their family. A few days after the funeral, the family gathered once more, this time in the large sitting room of Haj Ibrahim's old house. The sadness from the funeral still hung in the air, but now it was mixed with something else. Tension. People didn't speak much. They sat on couches, sipping tea, avoiding eye contact. They were waiting. At the front of the room sat Mr. Khalid, the family's lawyer. He was an older man with a serious face and a small notebook in his hand. He stood up, cleared his throat, and said calmly, "Thank you all for coming. Today, we will read the will that your father, may he rest in peace, left behind." Tariq, the eldest son, nodded with a firm expression. He had expected this day for years. As the oldest, he believed the family home and most of the inheritance would pass to him. Mr. Khaled opened a brown envelope and took out the will. He began reading the words slowly, but before he could finish the first few lines, he stopped. "There has been a development," he said, hesitating. Everyone looked up. "What kind of development?" asked Nabil, confused. Mr. Khaled reached into his briefcase and pulled out another envelope, older and more worn. "2 days ago," he explained, "I received this document in the mail. It was sent by someone who worked closely with your father. This appears to be an earlier will, or perhaps the final version, written in his own handwriting. I had it checked. It's real." Gasps filled the room. Layla looked at Mona in disbelief. Tariq frowned. "That's not possible," he said sharply. My father gave me a copy of the will a year ago. He told me everything was already decided. I understand, Mr. Tariq, the lawyer said, but your father may have changed his mind before he passed. The room went silent as Mr. Khaled read from the new will. What he said shocked everyone. Some people who had been promised land or money were now left with nothing. Others, who were not close to Hajj Ibrahim, even some who barely visited, were given large shares. The biggest surprise came when Mr. Khaled announced, "A large part of the estate, including the family house, will go to Suhail." Suhail was the quiet, middle-aged man sitting in the back. He wasn't one of the main children. In fact, some of the family barely knew him. A heavy silence followed. Everyone stared. "Who is Suhail exactly?" someone asked out loud. Suhail looked down, his hands shaking. He didn't say a word. Tariq stood up, angry. "This is nonsense. My father wouldn't do that. Suhail isn't even... he's not..." He stopped himself. He realized he didn't even know who Suhail really was. The room exploded into whispers and arguments. People questioned the lawyer, each other, and even the memory of their father. Some were furious, others confused. Layla cried quietly. Nabil paced the floor, mumbling to himself. The will had opened a door that had long been locked, a door hiding secrets and old wounds. Nobody knew what would happen next. But one thing was clear. The family was no longer united. The will had changed everything. After the reading of the second will, everything in the family changed. The once warm and loving home of Hajj Ibrahim became a place of whispers, sharp looks, and quiet anger. Brothers no longer trusted each other. Sisters argued in hushed voices. Even the younger grandchildren could feel the tension in the air. Tariq refused to believe the will was real. "There's no way Father gave Suhail everything," he told Nabil, pacing in the garden. "Something isn't right. Someone made this happen. Someone changed the will." "But it was handwritten," Nabil replied, unsure. "And the lawyer said it was confirmed." "Then someone tricked him," Tariq said with anger. "We need to find out who." And so, the search for truth began. The family splits. Soon, different members of the family started looking into the past. Tariq hired a private investigator to look into Suhail's background. "I want to know everything about him," he ordered. "Who he is, where he came from, and what connection he really had with our father." Meanwhile, Layla, more gentle and thoughtful, decided to search in another way. She began going through old boxes in the attic of her father's house. Letters, pictures, notes. "Maybe Baba left a sign," she whispered to herself. Mona started asking questions around the neighborhood, old friends, family servants, even the driver who worked with Hajj Ibrahim for 20 years. Slowly, small details began to appear. The past comes to light. One evening, while reading an old letter dated nearly 30 years ago, Layla gasped. It was written by Hajj Ibrahim to a woman named Fadwa. In the letter, he said, "I still think about the child, the one we never spoke about. I hope he's well. I hope he knows I never forgot." Layla's hands trembled. The child? Could that be Suhail? She wondered. At the same time, the private investigator brought back a file to Tariq. Suhail was raised by a woman named Fadwa in a small town, the man explained. She never married, but there's a strong rumor that the father of her child was someone wealthy, someone powerful, someone who disappeared from her life without explanation. Tariq stared at the paper. Everything was pointing in one direction. Suhail's silence. Throughout all this, Suhail said very little. He didn't argue, he didn't claim anything. He just sat quietly whenever the family gathered, as if he didn't belong. Finally, Layla approached him gently. "Who are you really?" she asked, her voice soft. Suhail looked at her with tired eyes. "I'm not here to fight anyone," he said. "I didn't ask for this. He found me. He came to me a few months before he died. He told me he was sorry. He said I was his blood." Layla blinked. "So it's true?" He nodded slowly. "I didn't grow up with a father, but when he came to me, he told me he wanted to fix what he broke. I didn't expect anything else." A family on the edge. As the days passed, more secrets were uncovered. Old arguments from the past returned. People remembered things they had tried to forget. A strange visit Haj Ibrahim once made. A letter someone saw but ignored. The money that disappeared years ago? Trust was broken. Everyone had questions, but not all the answers were clear. Some family members sided with Tariq, others with Suhail, and some didn't know what to believe anymore. But one thing was certain. The truth about the will was not just about money. It was about mistakes, forgiveness, and a part of the family's history they had never been ready to face.